Welcome to Process to Profitability, a podcast all about the tools and strategies you need to serve your clients and grow your small business, hosted by me, Samantha Mabe of Lemon and the Sea. Join me as I chat with creative entrepreneurs and small business owners about how they built and grew their businesses and how you can do the same in a way that fits you. Let's get started. You're listening to episode 113 of Process to Profitability. Today, I'm talking about using Shopify for your website platform with Mands Burnette. We talk about Shopify compared to other platforms and why it's really great for online stores. We get into the inventory management and all of the back-end stuff, as well as how the design works and how it compares to other platforms. Mands tells us about some updates that Shopify is coming out with that she's really excited about, and how she helps her clients design and run their websites and online stores. Mands Burnette is a designer turned digital marketing maven. This former Shopify guru took all of the skills and wisdom from years as a designer, combined with the vast knowledge of marketing and SEO, and started Burnette Co, a digital marketing company specializing in helping creatives, makers, inventors, educators, and inspiring women to step out to share their passion with the world through clean design, storytelling, and an action plan. I really hope that you enjoy this episode, and if you do, I would love it if you would share it with a friend and leave us a rating or a review on iTunes. It helps other people find the show and helps me to bring on other great guests to cover topics that are useful for your business. Hi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So I read your bio at the beginning of the show, but I'd love if you could tell us a little bit more about who you are, where you're from, and what it is that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Mands, and I'm originally from Ontario, Canada, and I've moved out to the West Coast. I started kind of like my whole business journey in design. So I went to school for design. I've been designing for about 10 years. And then when I moved to the West Coast, I worked for Shopify. And so that's kind of how I got started with kind of the online thing. And then I worked for a theme development company as well on top of that. And it was just one of those things where it was like, I kept seeing the same issues. Like I kept seeing people come in and they're like, well, nobody's coming to my store and nobody's buying my stuff. And it was one of those things where I was like, well, why is that? So it was, a little bit of a combination of like, simple design things that they could do that would make their site better, or like SEO, that was a huge chunk that people just weren't educating people about, or they'd pay someone to set up their site and they would have absolutely no SEO. So it was kind of then that I was like, oh, well, maybe I should just go out on my own and do all this kind of like education and build sites for people that are built really well from the ground up. And then I can kind of help them once the store launches to bring traffic into it.
Awesome. So you kind of help with getting set up and the design, and then on an ongoing basis as well to make sure things are working and people are actually coming and purchasing.
Totally, because that's like, it's one thing, and that's kind of the common misconception, is that people are like, oh, well, my store's up and how come nobody's buying? And I just had somebody say that today. They were just like, oh, like this store's been up for a week and we haven't had any sales. And I was like, okay, well, let's look at like what's driving traffic to your site. And it was like, okay, well, you haven't updated any of your links on Instagram or Facebook or any of this stuff. So I'm just kind of like taking that and looking at it as a whole. Like, yes, you need a really solid website with really good SEO, but then from that point, it's like, well, what other actions are you taking to bring people to your store? Like, what are you actually doing to promote your products or your services or anything like that on top of it? And then going from there.
Okay. So is your business just you, or do you have a team with you?
I have a small team, and we're a small female team, and it's great. We mostly work with like women-run businesses and a lot of moms actually, which is super cool.
Cool. So as we've talked about a little bit already, we're talking about Shopify today because I work on Squarespace and Showit, and Shopify is something I've had questions about, but I am not familiar with, and I really wanted to be able to share this platform with the product makers out there as a really good option for their websites.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to start out by talking about why Shopify is a good platform for online stores.
Mm-hmm. So usually it's like, if anybody says I'm a product-based business, what platform should I be on? Always Shopify. And the reason that I say that is because it was actually built for e-commerce, whereas like Squarespace, like I love Squarespace too, but it's just not there yet. Like the inventory management isn't there. Like it's really finicky in the way that you have to set up your products. And so if you have like a very limited set of products, it's okay and it will work well. But if you're having collections of products or adding new products, Shopify is just so much easier. Like you can upload all of your products by spreadsheet. You can like duplicate products really easily, which means like you can maintain consistency in like product descriptions and all of that kind of stuff, which makes it really, really great. They have like this amazingly simple yet like elaborate inventory system where you can just kind of, upload your inventory in the back end if you're getting more stock in from a certain supplier, or that things are going to be ready at a certain time. You can add them in advance, so then they come out on a certain day and just auto add to your stock. Like just the stuff that they can do is just awesome.
Cool. And I think that's something a lot of people who have a service-based business and maybe they want to sell one or two products, they don't think about inventory management and all of that. So this is really specifically made for stores that are selling a lot of products that need all of that back-end stuff that their website can help them with.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you're just kind of selling one and two like digital products, or even just one or two products, like it might not be the right fit for you. But if you have like a product-based business and you're shipping and you're doing all of that stuff, like it really is the best platform.
Awesome. So I know when we had chatted earlier, you said that Shopify, like all website platforms, is also making some changes and some updates to make selling online even easier. So I'd love if you could share what those are and kind of what they're doing to really move forward as a platform to serve the people that are there.
Yeah, absolutely. So they have just kind of released like a whole slew of updates. They usually do like a big conference for, they call them like Shopify partners or experts. And so they've just released like a whole bunch of new information about what they're adding to the platform. And so they're adding more flexibility in design. Like that's a big thing that people say. It's like they love Squarespace because you can just drag and drop and put things wherever you want. And that was never really a thing that you could have on Shopify. You could have a flexible homepage and a few other templates, but it was harder to work with. So now they're adding the capability to add more kind of sections and make it more custom to the entire site. So that's like a super big one because that will give people a lot more like customization within the theme. The other thing that I'm super excited about is that they're adding subscriptions to it. Like you could always add subscription functionality, but it had to be like another app that plugged into it. So it's going to be super exciting when they actually like put it into the platform, because that means that you can do like your subscription boxes, or even if you want to run like a membership site, you can now like Shopify is an option for that now. Whereas before it kind of, you could do it, but it just seemed like too much going on for just needing something so simple. They're also introducing kind of like having the option to do multiple currencies. So you'd be able to have multiple currencies that people can check out in, whereas before it was just kind of one. So if you were charging in USD, whether you were here or in Europe, they'd be checking out in USD, whereas now you can have it based on location, which currency people check out in. So that's another big one as well.
Cool. And I love, that they're coming out with this big design update, because that is something people really like about Squarespace, is that they have a lot of control over the way it's going to look, but they kind of work within those bounds and they know that it's going to look good without having to touch all the code. So I'm sure that's going to help store owners here as well, that they have more flexibility in what they can customize.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll give people a lot more confidence when they're kind of dealing with their store, because that's one thing that people kind of struggle with is that, you set up this store for them and then they're like afraid to touch it because they're like, it'll make it easier for people to set up and it'll be great. Like, I'm super excited about that because that's something I've been looking forward to for a long time. So yeah.
We've talked a little bit about how Shopify works and compared to Squarespace specifically, but I'd love to talk about kind of what it has compared to these other platforms as far as blogs and how you go about setting up a Shopify store.
Yeah. So it has basically everything that you could possibly want. So it's got the option to have blogs within there. You can actually even have like multiple blogs within the platform, which makes it really easy. And then obviously you've got like your products and you can have all of your pages and everything like that. Other things that like people are super into is having the ability to kind of just plug in your Instagram and do like shoppable Instagram feeds and like Facebook and all of that kind of stuff. You can plug those in. So then it makes it really easy from your phone to just tag products and sell online. Those are a couple of really big ones that people have. But setting up Shopify, when I'm starting with them, I always start with the products first, and then you can build on that. And so the reason I start with adding the products and making sure that all of those are in there first is because then you can sort them into collections how you want. And then it makes all of the rest of the steps really easy as you're kind of pulling that in. The other big consideration that people have are kind of like choosing your theme. And that's a big struggle that people have. It's like when they're choosing a theme, they're like, I don't really know. And they all look okay. And like, they're almost afraid to do it because Shopify themes are expensive. They can kind of range from like $160 to kind of like closer to $200. So they're afraid that they're going to buy a theme and then it's going to be all wrong. So like a couple of things that I always like to say is, one, if you want to have an Instagram feed on there and like built into it, just make sure that when you're looking, you kind of check that box. And so there's an easy way to kind of like check the boxes that you know that you want. And then always look at the navigation is another big tip that I have, where all of the navigation on different stores are different. So if you know that you want to have, a drop-down menu with 3 columns, then you're looking for themes that have that. And they make it really easy on the side when you're looking at the themes to kind of like check the boxes of things that you know that you want. And so that's kind of, when it comes to themes, that makes it a lot easier to kind of have a few things that you really want, and then you can kind of narrow it down from there.
Yeah. And I love the idea of kind of start with what it is that you really want in your website and then make sure it has that functionality. That's what I do with all of my clients as well, because if you pick something to start with that doesn't have the functionality you need, then either you can't do it or you have to go back and change everything later. And either way, it's just a pain.
Totally. Yeah. And it's like, if you know that you're going to do a lot of blogging, it's like you want to look at those blog pages and you want to make sure that it's like ordered in a way, because if you need to change that, like you would have to hire a developer and that's expensive and you don't want to pay for that when you have other options, right?
Yeah. So you said, when you're designing on Shopify, you pick a theme. Are those through Shopify or do other people sell them?
Yeah, they have a theme store and you can buy them in other places. But if you're coming through the theme store, you know that you're getting really good support because they kind of vet the people who are selling on the theme store. So you know that they're going to answer your support questions if you have any. And they know that if there's like a bug in the theme, then they're going to fix it and you'll be able to update that as well. So I kind of like to buy from there, but there are other options.
Awesome. And then once you've chosen a theme and installed it, what design options do you have within that you don't need a developer to help you with?
Yeah. So kind of the next step to that is that you would go into their theme editor And then they have what's called sections. And so you can pick the sections that you want. And so different sections would be kind of like, the slideshow, or if you wanted like video, or they've got text boxes and that kind of thing. So you can just select the ones that you want and you can drag them to reorder them. And then you would just add in your pictures and add in your text. And then it makes it really easy just to kind of like get it set up originally.
Part of what it takes to run a successful online business is having the right tools for the job. I'm sharing a list of all of the tools I use in my business in my toolbox. And you can find that at lemonandthesea.com/my-toolbox to download it now. These include tools that I use for podcasting, designing, running my business, and other things, so you can get a real inside look at everything that I use every day in order to serve my clients well and grow my business. Again, you can find that at lemonandthesea.com/my-toolbox.
So we've talked about a little bit about why this is good for product-based people, but can you talk to those people about, how you use it for inventory management, adding products, automation, and just selling online in general? How does Shopify do all of that and help people who have a store?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I love about Shopify versus pretty much any other platform, specifically like Squarespace, like I've had other people who, sell these like beautiful linen clothing and they release a fall collection. And then you're spending hours and hours and hours like uploading products individually and doing that. And what I really love about Shopify is that you can put it all into a spreadsheet and then you can upload it and it's done. And then you just have to go in and like tweak a few different things within it. The other thing, if you're selling clothing, is like one of the easiest ones where it's like, say you have a t-shirt and you have that t-shirt in 3 colors and like 4 sizes, and you have a bunch of different ones, you can just duplicate that product. So they make it really easy to just kind of click the button and then you can duplicate it for different designs. So it's like if I have this bear t-shirt and it comes in like black, white, and gray and 4 different sizes, and then I have a tree t-shirt that comes in the same options or something similar, then they can literally do it in like a couple seconds, and then you just change a little bit in the description and then you'd move on, right? So you're not set up having to do the same like variants or the same variations of it for every single product, which is like a time saver for sure. The other thing that is really great, like their inventory management system, it just keeps getting better and better. One of the questions that I get a lot is people wholesaling when they set up kind of like a wholesale store for their products. You can do what's called like a draft order within there. So it's basically an invoice, right? So it's if you have somebody saying, I want to wholesale your product, and then you can easily just send them basically like a wholesale invoice and they can pay directly through Shopify. So then you're keeping everything in one area. The other thing, like one of the other ones that I really love is I work with a lot of people who are kind of like makers and creatives and that kind of stuff. And so they'll go to markets, right? So they'll take their product and they'll go to markets and they'll sell. So one of the really cool things is they also have like a POS, so like a point of sale system. So now you can take that on like your phone or your like an iPad if you're going to the market or something like that, and people can pay directly through that channel, and then it subtracts the inventory from your online store as well. So you're not like overselling online, which is not such a big deal if it's kind of t-shirts or something like that. But if you're selling pottery or you're doing anything that's kind of like may not be exactly as is on the store, you're automatically updating all of your inventory so you won't oversell anything, which is awesome.
Yeah. And it sounds like that would be so much easier for updates as well. You don't have to come back from your market and like change all of your inventory by hand. It's all automatically.
Totally. Yeah. Like I've heard the horror stories of people coming back being like, I wrote everything down on a piece of paper and then I lost the paper and I was like, well, I don't know. Then they're stuck like counting everything over again. And you're just like, oh no, there's easier ways. You can do it.
Yeah. And the inventory management sounds awesome. I know in Squarespace, when you're adding a product, like you have to go in and make all of these things. And sometimes if you want to have different options as far as variations, you either have to have an upgraded plan or you have to work with a Squarespace designer to do it. And this has all that built in. So when you are a bigger store with a lot of inventory, it just sounds like it makes it very simple to keep things up to date, to add new products, and have all of the different options that you might need.
Yes, totally. Yeah, it just gives you that peace of mind that everything's kind of like running smoothly and running together as well. So it's nice.
Okay, so I know you are a Shopify designer, and I'd love for you to kind of explain how you work with people who don't want to take on that piece of their website themselves.
Yeah, I absolutely love setting up Shopify stores, and I come at it from like a very like nerdy perspective as well, because I just like absolutely love SEO. So one of the biggest hassles when you're working with anybody as like from both ends is like organizing your products really well in order to kind of like hand them off and do that. So that's kind of one of the biggest things, because like the products take so much time to put in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just need to really make sure that like you're very organized on kind of like your end to be able to like make things go a lot faster. So one thing that's really good for SEO in general, but also speeding things up and like eliminating confusion, is like renaming all of your file names. So if you're handing off, all of your products, making sure that you rename those file names with kind of the names of the products, so then it's not confusing as to like which goes where and what goes with which specific product. So that's a really big one. And then making sure that you also have like all of the product information to eliminate kind of like the back and forth. So, your product descriptions are in there, you've got your pricing in there. The other thing that you can add is like the product cost. So then your profit margins as well. So like that's always something that even if you're not concerned about it like right now, it's always good to set it up, because eventually you are going to want to look at that. So then down the line, and you can look at it in your reports as to like how much money you're actually making as well. So those kind of things are all really great first steps to kind of get organized. The other thing that I always like to ask people is kind of where they see their site going, because I have a lot of people who will kind of, if you make the mistake of setting up your store for kind of where you are now versus where you want to go, then you'll just have to update it again in a little bit, right? Like it's the same thing. You kind of want to set it up with a little bit more functionality than you need, knowing where you're going, and then it gives you the opportunity to kind of grow into it. So if maybe you're not wholesaling right now, having a vision of that happening in the future. So it's, you've got a form where people can fill it out and then they can contact you for wholesaling. You've got a stockist page on there. You've got that functionality built into it. So then you're ready to go when you're ready to do that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So once somebody has all of the products and, they've contacted you to work together, I'm assuming you help them choose a theme and then do the customization as well as the rest of the SEO stuff.
Yeah. So what I do is it's a little bit unique in the way that I do it, because I do have a lot of people who, will want to maintain their site after it's gone. So what I do is I will take on the project, and then we talk about design and what it is that you want. We'll talk about where it is that you're wanting to go with your business, and then we'll set up all of the products. We'll do all of the design, build in the SEO on top of that, and then just kind of making any customization. So like building custom templates if you need it, or doing that kind of stuff. And then I generally help a lot with copywriting as well. So it's if you have pages and you're not really sure what what can go there, or kind of like tweaking the about page or making the product description sound a little bit better. I usually tweak a lot of that stuff as well. And then when we're kind of all done, then I teach you how to run your store. So I'll teach you how to add your own products and like the steps that I take to kind of do that. I always set up like a custom template in the back for products where you can just kind of duplicate that and then turn it into your own product. So then you're not worried about getting the styling right or doing any of that. Like it's already in there for you. And then I kind of teach you the ins and outs of that as well, of like running your store and adding pages and SEO and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love that you offer that. I think there are not enough designers who prepare their clients to take over when the design is done, because some people will keep on a designer, but a lot of people don't have somebody on retainer to do that. And so by preparing them with what they need to know, you're really serving them well, and you're helping them make sure that their site is going to look consistent and look good and reflect well on you for other people who go and check it out.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the biggest thing is like you put up a site and then they put up the wrong size images and you're like, oh no. And it's like, it just comes down to like an education where it's like, this is how you do it. Then people are like, oh, okay, I can do that.
Yeah. For the SEO piece, I know that's something I hear a lot from people is the SEO of this platform good? I've heard, good and bad things about all these different platforms. So how does Shopify compare, and, what have you found with SEO there?
Yeah, Shopify actually does a really great job with it. And they keep it really easy where it's not kind of hidden away in like a secret part where you have to plug things in for it. It's pretty easy. Like one, for any images at all on your website, like no matter what platform you're on, always making sure to like rename your file names. So rename based on like what's in the image or what the image is about. Putting your store name in there is all really great to do, because that just gives search engines another way to kind of like read your image. And then making sure that you're adding in alt tags to all of your images as well. So every platform is a little bit different. Shopify makes it really easy. When you're uploading the image, they give you a spot kind of right in the bottom where you can add your alt tag in as well. And then at the bottom of most pages, they have an SEO section where it's got kind of, this is what it looks like in a search. So, renaming your pages to be a little bit longer. So it's, if you just have kind of like about page, it's like making that a little bit longer and a little bit more descriptive. So if people do come across it in a search, then they can tell a little bit more if it's what they're looking for as well. And then also with the description, like that's a very easy thing. And it's at the bottom of pretty much every single page, every single blog, product pages, all of that kind of stuff. So they make it really easy to kind of keep that up to date.
Yeah, that sounds great, because I think if you're doing the SEO part well, most platforms, from what I've talked to some SEO experts recently, the platform doesn't matter as much as doing the work. But it sounds like Shopify makes it really easy to do the work, to remember to enter all of that stuff. So you're not like going, oh, did I forget? I have to go to the back end and do all of these things.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not like you have to go into like another app and then do stuff. No, it's like all pretty much right there. You just kind of start at the top of the page and work your way down, and just remember to change those things.
Awesome. So I like to have my guests give 3 action steps that listeners can take today or this week to really move their business forward after they've listened to an episode, instead of just hearing it and thinking, okay, I'm going to do that later and then never getting to it. So do you have some action steps that people could take, whether they are already on Shopify or they're thinking about joining the platform?
Yeah. So I would always say, like, one, make sure that you have product descriptions, no matter what platform you're on, but specifically Shopify, like make sure that you have those product descriptions. And then also make sure that they're standardized. So like not everyone looks completely different. Like they look aligned, because that helps your store look more legit and then helps people feel more confident in buying from you as well. The second one would be kind of rename all your file names. If you already have like thousands of products up and you realize like, oh shoot, like I didn't do this, at the very least, like go back and add in all of the alt tags. It's super easy to do it, to add alt tags for products. You can kind of like export all your products in a spreadsheet, and then you can just do them in one big swoop. There's a column that's right in the spreadsheet specifically for alt tags, and then you can just re-upload it, and will just kind of like fix all of that. And then get somebody else to look at your website as well, because that's one of the things where there's always gaps that maybe you won't see going through it the first time, where it's maybe you've forgotten to add in kind of a call to action for like a specific thing, like, you know, if you want to be a wholesaler or anything like that, like have somebody else look through it and see if there's any gaps.
Yeah, I love that last piece. That is so important, because even as designers, I'm sure if someone from your team kind of looks over things, my husband looks over stuff that I do, because I have been sitting there staring at it for so long that I can't see the mistakes that might be glaring to somebody else.
Totally. It's always, there's like that one word that you just switch the letters in or something like that. And it's like, oh no, you're just a little too close to it. So like stepping back always helps.
All right. So we always wrap up with a couple of questions. And the first one that I love to ask is, can you give an example of how serving your clients well has benefited your business?
Mm-hmm. We basically run off of referrals, like our entire business. So that would be kind of one of the biggest things, like going the extra mile and giving the people the education and giving them the ability to run their own stores. Most people would think like, why would you do that? Because you're losing business. But it actually like grows our business, because they always come back for something more, where it's like, oh, another missing piece of the puzzle, where it's like, do you know about this? And it's like, yes, we can help you with that. So, you know, providing that education and giving them the confidence to kind of run their store themselves has just benefited us so much, in that they're always referring different people, and they're always coming back for the next phase of things.
Awesome. Tell me 2 things you're loving right now. They can be business or life.
I'm loving CRMs. So like I'm loving automation. I'm loving all of that stuff. And then the other thing that I'm like totally obsessed with is meal planning. So like meal prepping. I just find that it's like, it makes my life so much easier at the end of the day. And like with working so much in your brain, not having to think about like what you're making for dinner just is the best.
Yeah. Do you have some, like a service you use, or do you just plan it out on your own at the beginning of the week?
I usually, like this month was a little wild, because I have a 5-year-old, so he was going to school for the first time and all of that. But I sat down and did like the entire month. So now we know what we're eating for dinner for the entire month. Threw in like a bunch of slow cooker meals. So it feels like I have a butler, and it's just great. Yeah.
Yes, that is a huge thing. I love it when I do it. I always regret it when I don't.
Exactly. I know. You're just like, oh, it was so good.
All right. So what are you excited for that's coming up in the future?
We've got a few Shopify stores that are launching. So I'm super excited about it. And then I'm also building a Shopify course. So kind of one of my goals for the year was basically taking all of the content that we give to all of the people that we offboard and just making it available to everybody. So that's kind of the next step. So the first piece of the puzzle is going to be launching this month, and it's all about like adding products to Shopify. And so then we can support our clients with that, but then we can also support our community with that.
Awesome. All right. So where can people find you online if they want to connect?
Yeah, so you can find me at Burnette Co. On Instagram, on Facebook, and then also on the web. And then you can also follow me personally at Mands Burnette on Instagram.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was really good. And I love hearing about other platforms and how other designers work with their clients. I think it's such a cool thing to get to do and to learn from other people.
Totally. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Process to Profitability. Please take a minute to leave an honest review in iTunes so that I can help more small business owners and creative entrepreneurs find the show.